Do you think I'm stupid? Vivian Hale's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. It cut through the narrow hallway like a blade. Sharp, clean, practiced. The kind of voice that had ended meetings, killed negotiations, silenced rooms full of people who were paid to disagree. Darius Carter stood with one hand on the doorframe, the other hanging at his side like it didn't know what to do. Behind him, the warm yellow light of his apartment spilled into the hallway. It painted the edges of his small world, a cheap mat that read welcome even when the world didn't, a pair of children's sneakers by the wall, a paper snowflake taped crookedly to the door. In front of him stood a woman who looked like she belonged to a different city, one made of glass towers and elevator music, a city where the air smelled like money and deadlines. Her hair was pulled back. Her coat was still buttoned wrong, like she'd dressed in the dark. Her eyes were too bright, too awake, too empty all at once. And between them, small, trembling, trying to be brave, was Harper Hale. She clutched a stuffed teddy bear to her chest. The bear was old, soft in places from being loved, one ear slightly bent as if it had listened too hard to too many secrets. Harper's knuckles were white around it. Vivian's gaze flicked to the bear, then to Darius, then to the doorway behind him. "So," Vivian said, each word measured, "you just brought her here." Darius breathed in slowly. He tasted coffee and last night's rain. Seattle's particular scent, like the city itself had been rinsed clean and still refused to feel new. "I found her," he said. "Outside." Vivian cut him off. "Outside where?" Her hands were clenched at her sides. Not shaking. Vivian Hale didn't shake. She controlled. She commanded. She built empires and broke excuses. Harper looked up at Darius for half a second, like she wanted to borrow his calm. Darius saw his own daughter in the doorway behind him. Nia's face half hidden, eyes wide, pajama sleeves tugged over her hands. Nia didn't speak. She just watched, quiet the way children got when they sense danger in adult voices. Vivian stepped closer. The hallway light made shadows under her cheekbones, gave her face an almost unreal sharpness. "You want money?" Vivian asked. "Is that what this is? Or sympathy? You think I'll feel guilty and write you a check?" Darius felt something rise in him, hot and old and familiar. Not anger, something deeper. The sting of being seen as a threat before being seen as a person. The heavy, exhausting knowledge that his skin could turn kindness into suspicion in somebody else's eyes. He swallowed it down. "No," he said softly. "That's not—" "Then why didn't you call the police?" Vivian demanded. "Why didn't you take her somewhere public? Why bring her to your home?" Darius opened his mouth, and for a second he wanted to explain everything. How he had called, how he had waited, how the rain had turned sharp, how Harper's lips had gone pale, how the city had felt too wide and too cold for a child alone. He wanted to say, "Because I'm a father too." But he didn't, because in Vivian's eyes, he could already see the story she'd written. A stranger, a man, a danger, a headline, a nightmare. Darius looked down at Harper and forced his voice to stay gentle. "Harper," he said, "stay close to your mom, okay?" Harper's lower lip trembled. She hugged the teddy bear tighter. Vivian's face twitched, something like confusion at his calm, like she'd expected him to fight, to bargain, to plead. Darius didn't do any of that. He only stepped back, letting the door open wider, showing the apartment behind him like evidence. A small living room, a couch with a worn blanket, a kitchen with dishes in the sink, children's drawings taped to the wall, crayon suns and stick figures, two girls holding hands under a cloud of blue scribbles that could only be rain. Vivian's eyes flicked across it, calculating, searching for traps that weren't there. Harper's voice came out tiny. "Mom," she whispered. "He didn't—" "Harper," Vivian snapped, not looking at her. "Get behind me." Harper flinched. And that flinch, small, quick, hit Darius like a punch. Because he knew that flinch. He'd seen it in Nia when he raised his voice too fast, when grief came out wrong, when exhaustion made him sharp. He hated it every time. In the doorway, Nia moved. She stepped forward, timid but determined, holding something in her hands. It was another teddy bear, hers, the one she slept with when storms got loud. She walked to Harper and held it out, both hands. Harper stared at it like it was a miracle. Nia whispered, "So you don't feel alone?" Vivian looked down, startled, as if she'd forgotten children could be this honest. Darius's throat tightened, and right then, right in that narrow hallway with rain still dripping off Vivian's coat, Darius thought, "This is the moment that's going to follow me. This is the moment that decides what kind of world my daughter grows up in." The air hummed with things unsaid, and then, to understand how it got here, how a lost girl and a tired father ended up facing a CEO's suspicion in a dim hallway, you had to go back to the night before. Back to the first time Harper said the words that changed everything. "My mom forgot me." Darius Carter's life was built on small routines. Not because he loved routine, because routine was protection. A fence, a lock on the door, a way of telling the universe, "This is the line you do not cross." At 5:40 p.m., he left the apartment with Nia's lunch packed and her hair braided neat enough to make her teacher smile. At 6:10, he dropped her off at the after-school program with a kiss on the forehead and a quiet reminder. Listen to Ms. Greer. Be kind. Call me if you need anything. At 6:35, he was on the bus, hands wrapped around a paper cup of coffee like it was a small fire. At 7, he stepped into the marble lobby of the building where he worked security. Hale and Gray Plaza, downtown Seattle, all polished stone and cold glass. The kind of place where people didn't look each other in the eye unless they had to. His uniform fit him well. He kept it clean, pressed. Not because the job demanded it, but because he'd learned something early. When you didn't get the benefit of the doubt, you made your own armor. He worked the evening shift, watching cameras, making rounds, opening doors for people who didn't say thank you, reminding teenagers not to skateboard in the lobby even though they looked at him like he was the problem. Sometimes he imagined what strangers saw when they saw him. A tall black man, broad shoulders, a face that had stopped smiling too easily years ago, a posture that said don't test me even when his heart said please don't make me fight today. He didn't like thinking about it. He did it anyway, because Nia depended on him and he couldn't afford to be naive. Nia was 8, too observant, too sensitive. She could read his mood from the way his keys landed in the bowl by the door. She could tell when he'd had a hard night by how long he stood at the sink washing dishes that didn't need washing. Her mother, Darius's wife, had been gone 3 years. Cancer didn't care about promises. It didn't care about how hard Darius begged the ceiling at night. It took what it wanted and left him with hospital bracelets and a closet full of her clothes he couldn't bring himself to donate. When she died, people had said things like, "You're so strong." Darius had smiled and nodded like that was a compliment. But strength wasn't what he felt. He felt tired. He felt scared. He felt like he was walking a tightrope in the rain, and everyone expected him not to slip. So he made routines. He made rules. He made a life that held together because he held it, day after day, with both hands. That night, the city was soaked. Rain slid down the glass walls of Hale and Gray Plaza and pooled on the sidewalks in shimmering puddles. The sky was the color of a bruise. The wind had a sharpness that made your bones remember winter. At 11:20 p.m., Darius clocked out. He stepped outside and let the rain hit his face like a cold truth. His bus stop was 3 blocks away. He walked with his head slightly down, not rushing but not lingering either. Seattle at night could be beautiful, but it could also be hungry. He'd seen enough to know the difference. He passed storefronts closed for the night, neon signs dimmed, puddles reflecting the city like broken mirrors. That's when he saw her. At first, he thought she was a shadow, a small figure near the edge of an awning outside an upscale shopping center, Pacific Terrace Galleria, the kind of place where a bottle of water cost $8 and security guards wore suits. She was standing still, like she was trying to disappear. Darius slowed. A child. A girl, maybe 7. Her hair was damp. Her coat was too thin for the cold. She held a little purse that looked expensive, but her fingers were clenched so tight around the strap it looked like it hurt. She didn't cry. That was what made Darius's stomach drop. Crying was normal. Crying meant the child still believed someone would come. But this girl's face had gone quiet in a way that said she'd been waiting too long. Darius stopped a few feet away, keeping his distance. He lowered his voice, made it soft. "Hey," he said. "You okay?" The girl's eyes snapped up, wide, dark, alert in that way children got when they were alone and learning too fast. She didn't answer. Darius raised his hands slightly, palms visible, the way he'd learned to do when he didn't want to scare anybody. "My name's Darius," he said. "I work over there." He pointed back toward the plaza, toward the building with the bright lobby and the cameras. "You lost?" The girl hesitated, then her voice came out thin, like it had been hiding in her throat. "My mom forgot me." The words landed heavy. Darius felt his chest tighten. That's not okay," he said carefully. "What's your name?" She blinked, as if the question was far away. "Harper," she whispered. "Harper," Darius repeated gently. "Okay, Harper, do you know your mom's phone number?" Harper looked down at her purse. Her fingers trembled as she fumbled with it. She pulled out a tiny phone, pink case, glitter on the edges. The screen was black. "She said my phone was distracting," Harper said, voice cracking. She took it. Then she was on her phone, and I went to the bathroom, and when I came out, she wasn't there. Darius's mind began to move fast, assembling possibilities, procedures, dangers. "How long have you been here?" he asked. Harper's eyes darted away. "A while," she said. "It got dark." Darius glanced at his watch, 11:24. He looked around. The Galleria doors were locked. The street was mostly empty. The rain kept falling like the city had decided to drown quietly. "Okay," Darius said. "We're gonna find your mom, I promise." Harper stared at him like she didn't know whether to believe promises anymore. Darius reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. "Do you know your mom's name?" he asked. Harper nodded quickly. "Vivian." Darius paused. "Vivian what?" Harper blinked. "Hale." That name meant something in this city. Even Darius, who tried to keep his head down, knew it. Vivian Hale, CEO of Hale Dynamics, the woman whose face showed up on business magazine covers in the lobby of the building he guarded. The one people described with words like visionary and ruthless and brilliant. Darius felt a strange shift in the air, like he'd stepped into a story that wasn't his. He typed Vivian Hale into his contacts. Nothing. Of course. He tried searching quickly, but public numbers were gated, hidden behind offices and assistants. Darius looked down at Harper. "Do you know where your mom works?" he asked. Harper shook her head. "She works everywhere." There was bitterness in the child's voice that didn't belong in a 7-year-old's mouth. Darius's jaw tightened. He called the non-emergency line. He explained, calmly, clearly, a lost child outside Pacific Terrace Galleria, late at night, rain, mother unknown. The dispatcher asked questions. Darius answered. The dispatcher told him officers were busy, that someone would come when they could, that he should stay put. Darius looked at Harper again. She was shivering now, trying to hide it like it was embarrassing. Her lips were pale. "Can you walk with me under the awning?" Darius asked. "Just closer, out of the rain." Harper hesitated, then nodded. They moved under the building's edge. The wind still found them. Darius tried the Galleria security number. No answer. He called the plaza security desk. His coworker picked up, surprised. "Man, you off shift," his coworker said. "What's up?" "I found a lost kid," Darius said. "Outside the Galleria. I'm waiting on police. Can you check if there's any report? Any call come in?" His coworker's tone shifted. "A kid? Yeah, I'll check. Stay there, D." Darius ended the call and looked at Harper again. He took off his jacket, heavy, warm, and draped it over her shoulders. Harper stiffened. "It's okay," Darius said, "just for warmth." Harper's fingers clutched the jacket like it was the first safe thing she'd held all night. Do you have kids?" she asked quietly. Darius's eyes flicked toward the dark sky. "Yeah," he said. "A little girl." She's at home." Harper's voice cracked. "Does she ever get forgotten?" Darius felt pain flash behind his ribs. "No," he said, firm. "Not by me." The rain kept falling. Minutes passed, then more minutes. The street stayed empty. Darius checked his phone again, waiting for the dispatcher's update, his co-worker's call, anyone. Harper's shivering got worse. And then Darius made the decision that would bring Vivian Hale to his door with suspicion in her eyes. Because Darius Carter was not just a security guard. He was not just a man in the rain. He was a father. And you didn't leave a child in the cold when you had a home with light and blankets and someone who would offer a teddy bear without asking questions. Darius exhaled slowly. "Harper," he said, "I'm going to take you somewhere warm. My home is close. We'll call again from there, okay? We'll keep trying to find your mom. You'll be safe." Harper stared at him. "What if my mom never comes?" she whispered. Darius knelt so his eyes were level with hers. "Then I'll stay with you until she does," he said. Harper's eyes filled. She blinked it back like she'd been trained not to cry. She nodded, and together they stepped out into the rain and walked toward Darius Carter's small, warm apartment, a place where a little girl named Nia was about to learn that kindness could be shared, even when you didn't have much. The apartment smelled like cinnamon. Nia had tried to make toast earlier and burned it slightly. Darius had teased her about it gently, and she'd insisted she liked it extra crispy. Now the scent still lingered in the air, mixing with the clean soap smell of the laundry Darius hadn't folded yet. When Darius unlocked the door, Nia was waiting up, perched on the couch with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders like a cape. Her eyes went straight to Harper. "Daddy," Nia whispered, not scared, curious. "Who's that?" Darius stepped aside so Harper could enter without feeling trapped. Harper hovered on the threshold, staring at the small room like it was a museum exhibit of another life. "This is Harper," Darius said. "She got lost. She's cold." Nia's expression changed immediately. 8-year-olds could turn compassion on like a light. Nia jumped up and shuffled closer, careful not to crowd Harper. "Hi," Nia said, soft. "I'm Mia." Harper's voice was barely a breath. "Harper." Nia looked at Harper's damp hair, the oversized jacket hanging off her shoulders. "You can have my blanket," Nia offered at once. Harper hesitated. Darius stepped in. "Mia, let's get her warm first. Go grab the small heater from your room." Nia nodded and ran. Darius guided Harper toward the couch. "Sit," he said gently. "You're safe here." Harper sat stiffly at the edge, hands in her lap. She didn't lean back. She didn't relax. She looked like she was waiting for something to go wrong. Darius went to the kitchen and filled a mug with hot water, dropped in a tea bag. He added honey, the way his wife used to do when Nia was sick. He set the mug on the coffee table. "Hold it," he told Harper. "Careful, it's warm." Harper wrapped her hands around it. Her fingers were so cold they looked almost blue. Darius's phone buzzed, his coworker. Darius answered quickly, stepping toward the kitchen so the girls couldn't hear too much. "Dee," his coworker said, breathless. "No report came in, nothing. You sure she's lost?" Darius's jaw tightened. "Yeah, I'm sure." "Man," his coworker said, voice dropping. "Be careful. You know how—" "I know," Darius cut in quietly. "I called it in, non-emergency. I'm waiting." "Okay," his coworker said. Yeah, be careful." Darius ended the call and looked back at Harper. Her shoulders had dropped slightly, like the warmth was working. Nia came back with the heater, dragging it across the floor, then stopped and looked at Harper again. "You want to watch cartoons?" Nia asked. Harper blinked. "It's late." Nia shrugged. "Sometimes when I can't sleep, Daddy lets me watch one." Darius raised an eyebrow. 1. Nia grinned. 2. Darius tried not to smile. 1. Nia sighed dramatically and turned to Harper. "We can watch one." Harper's lips twitched, not quite a smile, but close. Darius watched the two girls settle under a blanket, Nia making space, Harper slowly inching closer like she couldn't help being drawn toward warmth. For a moment, the apartment felt like something it hadn't felt like in a long time. Full, alive. He heard the rain tapping the window like impatient fingers. He checked his phone again. No updates. He paced quietly, mind working. Who loses a child at night in the rain and doesn't notice? Then he remembered the magazines in the lobby. Vivian Hale smiling in a blazer that probably cost more than his rent. The world Vivian lived in was built on urgency, on always moving, on never slowing down. Maybe she didn't forget her daughter the way Harper meant it. Maybe she forgot the way people forgot things when they believed the world would always catch what they dropped. Darius's chest tightened again. Nia's voice pulled him back. "Harper," Nia was saying, "do you have a favorite color?" Harper looked down at the mug in her hands. "Blue," she whispered. "But, like dark blue. Like the sky when it rains." Nia's eyes widened. "Me too." Harper glanced up. "Really?" Nia nodded eagerly. "I draw rain a lot. Daddy says Seattle is basically rain with buildings." Harper's mouth opened slightly in surprise. Nia leaned closer, whispering like it was a secret. "Sometimes, when Daddy is tired, I pretend I'm a superhero and I protect him." Harper blinked. "You protect your dad?" Nia nodded. "Yeah, because he protects me all the time." Harper's fingers tightened around the mug. "My mom protects me too," Harper said, but her voice wavered. "She just does it from far away." Nia frowned. "How far?" Harper swallowed. "Like, in her phone." Nia looked confused, then glanced at Darius across the room, as if asking him to translate adult sadness into something she could understand. Darius's throat tightened. He sat on the armchair, staying close, but not intruding. He let the girls talk, because sometimes children told truths adults didn't know how to say. Harper's voice grew steadier as the warmth wrapped around her. "She said it was a special day," Harper said. "We went out. She bought me a dress. She kept saying I looked perfect, like she wanted to take pictures." Nia's eyes lit up. "Did you twirl?" Harper nodded faintly. "I twirled." Nia giggled. "I love twirling. It makes my stomach feel like butterflies." Harper's face softened, then it tightened again. "She got a call," Harper whispered, "and she answered even though she said she wouldn't." Nia's smile faded. Harper looked down at her hands. "She walked while she talked, and I followed, and then I wanted to go to the bathroom and she said okay, she'd be right outside, and when I came out, she wasn't, and then I waited and waited." Nia's voice went quiet. "Did you get scared?" Harper nodded, and her eyes shone. "I didn't want to cry," Harper said, "because she hates when I cry in public. She says it makes people stare." Nia's small face tightened, angry in a way only kids could be, pure and unfiltered. "That's not fair," Nia said. Harper looked up, startled. Nia's voice softened. "It's okay to cry. Daddy says crying is your heart talking." Darius felt something twist in him. He'd said that once, when Nia had cried so hard after her mother's funeral that she couldn't breathe. He hadn't realized it had stuck. Harper's eyes filled. She blinked hard. Nia reached for something without thinking, her teddy bear, the one she kept on the couch for nights when thunder got too loud. She held it out toward Harper. "You can hug him," Nia offered. "He's brave." Harper stared at the bear like it was a tiny lifeboat. She reached out slowly and hugged it. The way she held it was desperate, like she'd been waiting for permission to be a child again. Darius turned away for a second, pretending to check his phone, because the sight of it made his eyes burn. Rain on the window. Two girls under a blanket. A bear pressed to a small chest. This was the kind of moment that didn't make headlines. This was the kind of moment that kept the world from breaking. Darius's phone buzzed again, an unknown number. He answered, heart jumping. Mr. Carter? A voice said. A woman's voice, professional, clipped. This is Officer Ramirez with Seattle Police. You reported a lost child. Yes, Darius said quickly. Yes, she's here with me. She's safe. Where are you located? Officer Ramirez asked. Darius gave the address. There was a pause. You took her to your home? Darius closed his eyes briefly. It was raining. She was freezing. I called. I waited. No one came. I didn't want to leave her out there. Another pause. Okay, Officer Ramirez said, her tone careful now. We'll dispatch an officer to your location. Stay where you are. Do not let the child leave. Do you have any identification for the child? No, Darius said. She said her name is Harper Hale. Her mother is Vivian Hale. The line went very quiet. Then Officer Ramirez said, slowly, Vivian Hale? Yes. All right, Officer Ramirez said, stay put. She hung up. Darius stared at his phone. Nia looked over. Is her mom coming? Darius's voice was steady, but his chest was tight.
We'll see,
he said. Harper hugged the bear and whispered,
She'll come. She always comes. Just late.
Darius watched her say it like a prayer and felt something cold settle in him, because late was the kind of word children use to make adult neglect sound gentle. The knock came at 12:34 a.m., 3 sharp taps. Darius's whole body tensed. He moved to the door slowly, keeping his movements calm. He checked the peephole. 2 uniformed officers, 1 woman, 1 man. He exhaled and opened the door. Officer Ramirez stood in front. Her eyes took in the scene. Darius, the small apartment, 2 girls on the couch, one clutching a teddy bear like her life depended on it. Her gaze flicked to Darius's face and stayed there a fraction longer than necessary. Measuring. Darius recognized the look. He kept his voice polite. Officer, thank you for coming. Officer Ramirez nodded briskly. Mr. Carter? Yes. She stepped inside without waiting, the other officer following. They moved with the quiet authority of people used to being the center of fear. Officer Ramirez crouched slightly in front of Harper, softening her tone. Hi, she said. I'm Officer Ramirez. Can you tell me your name? Harper clutched the bear tighter. Harper, she whispered. And do you know your mom's name? Officer Ramirez asked. Vivian Hale, Harper said. Officer Ramirez's eyes flicked up to Darius. Darius held his hands at his sides, fingers open, calm. Officer Ramirez stood. Okay, she said, professional again. We're going to contact Ms. Hale. Darius tried to read her face. He couldn't. She was trained for this. Officer Ramirez stepped aside and spoke quietly into her radio. The other officer moved toward the couch, eyes scanning the room. Nia sat up straighter, chin lifted in a way that made Darius's heart twist. She'd learned too early how to look brave. The male officer glanced at Nia. That your daughter? He asked Darius. Yes, Darius said. Age? The officer asked. 8? The officer nodded, then looked at Harper. And she spent the night here? Darius felt the words scrape at him. Spent the night, as if he'd invited trouble in for tea. She was freezing, Darius said. I made sure she was safe. The officer's eyes narrowed slightly, not openly hostile, but not warm either. Officer Ramirez returned, her face unreadable. Ms. Hale has been notified, she said. She's on her way. Harper's shoulders loosened as if the words had unhooked something inside her. She's coming, Harper whispered. Nia leaned toward Harper and whispered, See? Told you. Harper's mouth trembled into a small smile. Officer Ramirez's gaze softened a little when she saw that smile. Then she looked back at Darius, and the softness disappeared again, replaced by caution. We'll wait here, Officer Ramirez said. Darius nodded. Of course. Time stretched. The rain kept tapping the window, steady, relentless. Nia asked if she could get Harper some water. Officer Ramirez hesitated, then nodded. Darius watched Nia move around the kitchen with the practiced ease of a child who'd learned responsibility early. She poured water carefully, like she knew how easily it could spill, how easily things could break. Harper whispered, "Your dad is nice." Nia whispered back, "He is. He's just tired." Harper hugged the bear and looked toward Darius, eyes wide with something like admiration. Darius tried not to let it shake him. Because admiration made you visible. Visibility was dangerous when people already believed stories about you. At 1:11 a.m., another knock. This one wasn't sharp. It was urgent. Like a fist hitting wood because waiting hurt too much. Officer Ramirez opened the door. Vivian Hale stepped inside, and the room changed. She didn't look like magazine Vivian now. She looked wrecked. Her coat was half-zipped. Her hair had escaped its neat pull. Her face was pale, eyes rimmed red, but her spine was still straight. Even broken, Vivian Hale carried herself like someone who refused to collapse. Harper shot off the couch. "Mom!" she cried. Vivian dropped to her knees and caught Harper, crushing her to her chest. Her breath hitched, one sharp sound, like the first time she'd allowed herself to feel. "Oh my God," Vivian whispered into Harper's hair. "Oh my God, Harper, Harper clung to her, crying now, small sobs muffled against Vivian's coat. Officer Ramirez stepped forward. "Ms. Hale," she said, "this is Mr. Carter. He contacted us after finding your daughter." Vivian's head lifted. Her eyes met Darius's. And in that instant, Darius saw the switch flip. Not relief, not gratitude, fear, hard and sharp, twisted into suspicion. Vivian stood slowly, keeping Harper behind her as if Darius might reach out and snatch her. "You," Vivian said, voice flat. Darius's jaw tightened. "Ma'am," he said evenly, "your daughter was alone in the rain. Vivian's eyes flicked to his uniform pants, to his broad shoulders, to his face. "Why is she here?" Vivian demanded. Darius blinked. "She was freezing. I called." "Why didn't you take her to a police station?" Vivian said, louder now. "Why bring her to your apartment?" Officer Ramirez stepped in. "Ms. Hale, Mr. Carter did contact us." Vivian wasn't listening. Her gaze stayed locked on Darius like she was trying to see through him, through his intentions, through his skin. "I'm Vivian Hale," she said, each word sharp. "Do you know what people do when they see my name? They try to get something." Darius's hands curled slightly, then relaxed. He forced himself to breathe. Vivian's voice hardened. "So tell me," she said, "what do you want?" Nia stepped forward suddenly, small but fierce. "He doesn't want anything," Nia said. Darius's heart dropped. "Nia." Vivian looked down at Nia like she'd just noticed her. Nia held Harper's teddy bear out, hers, the one Harper had been hugging. "She was scared," Nia said, "so I gave her bear." Harper peeked from behind Vivian, eyes wet. Vivian's throat moved as she swallowed, but suspicion stayed. Darius spoke again, voice low. "Ma'am, I understand you're scared, but your daughter is safe. That's all that matters." Vivian's gaze narrowed. "Don't tell me what matters," she snapped. Officer Ramirez cleared her throat. "Ms. Hale, we'll need to take statements. Mr. Carter, we'll also need your identification." Darius nodded. "Of course." Vivian's eyes flicked to Officer Ramirez, then back to Darius. And then the words came, the words that would echo in Darius's head long after Vivian left. "You think I'm going to thank you," Vivian said, "for taking my child into your home. Do you know how that looks?" Darius felt the old heat rise again. He could have exploded. He could have shouted. He could have told Vivian that her fear didn't give her the right to accuse him. He could have pointed at Harper and said, "Ask her what happened." But he didn't. Because Nia was watching. Because Harper was watching. Because Darius knew how quickly adult anger turned into a child's memory of danger. So Darius did the only thing he could do with dignity and tact. He stayed calm. He looked at Harper, not Vivian, and said quietly, "Take care of yourself, okay? You're brave." Harper's face crumpled. Nia walked up and pressed the teddy bear into Harper's arms. "Keep him," Nia whispered. "He's good at night." Harper hugged it. Vivian opened her mouth as if to object, then stopped. Something in the simplicity of that gesture, a child giving away comfort caught in her throat. Officer Ramirez guided Vivian toward the door, paperwork in hand. Vivian left with Harper. The hallway swallowed them. The door clicked shut. Silence flooded the apartment. Nia stood there, staring at the closed door, her small hands empty now. Darius felt his chest tighten until it hurt. He knelt and pulled Nia into a hug. "You did good," he whispered. Nia's voice was small. Why was she mad? Darius closed his eyes. Because the world was like that, he wanted to say. Because sometimes kindness looked suspicious when it came from the wrong person. Because sometimes being a black man meant your good deeds came with a shadow of doubt. But he couldn't put that weight on Nia tonight. So he said the truth he could give her. "She was scared," Darius whispered. "People say wrong things when they're scared." Nia was quiet for a moment, then asked, "But she's Harper's mom. She shouldn't forget her." Darius's throat tightened again. "No," he agreed. "She shouldn't." Outside, the rain kept falling. And somewhere across the city, a little girl hugged a teddy bear that smelled like cinnamon and safety, while her mother held the steering wheel with white-knuckled hands, trying not to imagine what could have happened. Darius thought the night was over. He was wrong. The next morning, he woke up to a vibration on his phone that felt like a warning, a voicemail, then another, then text messages, some from friends, some from numbers he didn't know. He sat up, heart pounding, and checked the first message. "Brother, you on the news? Call me." Darius frowned and turned on the TV. A local morning anchor's face filled the screen. Behind her, a blurred photo, a hallway, a woman in a coat, a man's silhouette in a doorway, a child with a teddy bear. Darius's stomach dropped. The anchor's voice was smooth, careful, hungry. An incident downtown involving a missing child and a local CEO. Sources say the child was found late last night and brought to an apartment by an unknown man before police arrived. The mother, CEO Vivian Hale, has not made an official statement. Darius's fingers tightened around the remote. Unknown man. Unknown. As if he didn't have a name. As if he was a shape, not a person. The photo shifted to a clip. Grainy phone footage someone had taken in the hallway. Vivian's sharp voice, half captured, half muffled. "How that looks." Then Darius's calm voice, barely audible. "Take care of yourself." The anchor's eyebrows lifted slightly, performing concern. Authorities say there is no current evidence of wrongdoing, but questions remain. Darius shut the TV off. The apartment felt too small suddenly, like the walls had moved in. Nia came out of her room, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy?" she asked. "Why are you?" Darius forced his face to soften. "Morning, baby," he said, voice steady. "Go brush your teeth. We're gonna have breakfast." Nia frowned. "Are you in trouble?" Darius's throat tightened. "No," he said quickly. "No, you're not in trouble. I'm not in trouble." Nia's eyes narrowed slightly, as if she didn't fully believe him. Darius knelt in front of her, careful. "Listen to me," he said, gently but firm. "You did nothing wrong. You were kind. That's always right." Nia looked down. "But her mom was mad." Darius swallowed. "Sometimes adults mess up," he said. "Even grown-ups who look like they have everything together." Nia was quiet. Then she whispered, "Harper hugged Bear like she really needed him." Darius felt something twist in him. "Yeah," he said softly. "She did." At work that night, the lobby felt different. People looked at him longer. Some looked away quickly. Some whispered. Some watched like they were waiting for him to confirm their worst assumptions. Even his coworker, Ray, was tense. "Man," Ray muttered, leaning close as Darius checked the camera feeds. "They got your face on the internet. Kinda. Folks talking." Darius's jaw tightened. Talking about what? Ray made a face. "Same old. Why would he take her home? Why didn't he, you know?" Darius stared at the camera screens, empty hallways, elevators opening and closing, the city moving like it didn't care about any of this. He exhaled slowly. "What did the police say?" Ray asked. "They took my statement," Darius said. Officer Ramirez said there's no evidence of wrongdoing. That should be enough. Ray snorted, humorless. Should be, but you know how it goes. Darius didn't answer. He knew. He'd learned that no evidence didn't erase suspicion. It just made it quieter. That afternoon, his supervisor called him into the office, a small glass room that looked like it was designed for firing people politely. Mr. Klein, white hair, polished shoes, a tie that screamed corporate, folded his hands on the desk. Darius, he said, tone careful. We've had inquiries. Darius sat still. About what? Mr. Klein avoided his eyes. About last night. Darius forced his voice to stay calm. I did what I was supposed to do. Mr. Klein cleared his throat. I'm not saying you didn't, but the building's tenants are sensitive to publicity. Darius stared at him. So what are you saying? Mr. Klein sighed. I'm saying, until this blows over, we may need you to take some time off, paid, just to avoid issues. Darius felt heat rise, bitter and sharp. Time off, because he helped a kid, because the kid was wealthy, because the mother was powerful, because he was who he was. He clenched his jaw, then released it slowly. Fine, Darius said, voice low, if that's what you want. Mr. Klein looked relieved. It's not personal, Darius. Darius almost laughed. Instead, he stood and walked out. When he got home, he found Nia sitting at the kitchen table drawing. She looked up. You're home early? Darius tried to smile. Yeah, surprise. Nia tilted her head. Did you get fired? Darius's throat tightened. No, he said, not fired, just a break. Nia stared at him, too wise. Is it because Harper's mom got mad? She asked. Darius sat across from her and looked down at her drawing. Two girls under a big umbrella, a man holding it, rain falling all around them. The man's face was drawn with a big smile. Darius's chest tightened. He took a breath. Sometimes, he said carefully, when you do the right thing, people still don't understand. But you do it anyway. Nia's pencil paused. Will Harper be okay? She asked. Darius thought of Harper hugging the teddy bear like a lifeline. I hope so, he said softly. I really hope so. Across the city, Vivian Hale sat in a kitchen that looked like a magazine spread. White counters, stainless steel, nothing out of place. Yet she felt like the messiest thing in it. Harper sat at the island, the teddy bear in her lap. Vivian watched her daughter like she was trying to memorize her, like she was afraid Harper would vanish if she looked away. Harper didn't look up. Vivian's phone buzzed. Emails, messages, crisis management. Vivian stared at the screen, then turned it face down. She swallowed. Harper, she said carefully, tell me exactly what happened last night. Harper's fingers tightened around the bear. You got a call, Harper said quietly. And you walked away, and I waited, and then I couldn't find you. Vivian flinched. Harper kept going, voice small but firm. I thought you forgot me. The words hit Vivian like cold water. Vivian's mouth opened, closed. Harper looked up finally, eyes shiny. And then Darius found me. Vivian froze. Harper said his name like it belonged in her mouth. He gave me his jacket, Harper whispered. And he called people. And he brought me to his home because I was cold. And his daughter, Nia, gave me bear. Harper lifted the teddy bear slightly. Vivian stared at it. Something inside her cracked. Because she remembered the hallway. The way she'd looked at Darius. The way she'd turned fear into accusation. And now she saw what she'd done. She had taken a man's kindness and painted it as danger, without listening, without checking, without asking the one person who mattered, her child. Vivian's chest tightened until breathing hurt. Harper, Vivian whispered, voice breaking. I'm so sorry. Harper's eyes filled. I just wanted you to come back, she whispered. Vivian reached across the counter and held her daughter's hands, gripping them like she could anchor Harper to her. "I'm here," Vivian said, voice shaking. "I'm here." Harper didn't smile. She just hugged the teddy bear closer. And Vivian realized something terrifying. Being here wasn't a moment. It was a habit. And she had been out of practice for too long. That afternoon, Vivian sat in her office at Hale Dynamics. Glass walls, city view, power. But she felt none of it. Her PR director, Marlene, stood in front of her, tablet in hand. "This story is spreading," Marlene said briskly. "People are speculating. We should release a statement clarifying." Vivian's hands were clenched on the desk. "Clarifying what?" Marlene hesitated. "That you're grateful the child was found. That you acted out of fear. That the man is unknown, but—" Vivian's eyes flashed. "He's not unknown," she snapped. "He has a name." Marlene blinked. Vivian stood abruptly. "Get me his information," she said. "Now." Marlene's expression tightened. "That could be—" Vivian cut her off. "Now!" Marlene swallowed and nodded. "Yes." Vivian sat back down, pulse racing. For the first time in years, she felt something more frightening than a board meeting. She felt shame. Because she couldn't buy her way out of it, and she couldn't undo it with a merger. She could only face it. The rain was lighter the day Vivian found Darius's building. It wasn't gone. Seattle didn't do gone. But it was softer, like the city had decided to give her a chance. Vivian parked across the street from Darius's apartment complex and sat there for a long moment, hands gripping the steering wheel. She wasn't used to feeling nervous. She'd walked into rooms of investors and made them believe. She'd stared down lawsuits, hostile takeovers, betrayal. But this, walking into a small apartment building to apologize to a man she'd wronged, felt more terrifying than any of that. Because this didn't have a script, and because she wasn't sure she deserved forgiveness. Harper sat in the back seat, hugging the teddy bear. "I want to see Nia," Harper whispered. Vivian glanced at her in the mirror. "We'll see," she said softly. "We're going to talk first." Harper nodded solemnly, like she understood this was adult business. Vivian exhaled and stepped out into the damp air. She walked toward the building's entrance, heels clicking on wet pavement. Halfway there, she stopped. She looked up at the windows, small, ordinary, curtains, plants, life. She thought of Darius's apartment, cinnamon smell, crayon drawings, warmth. She thought of herself in her glass office with its perfect emptiness. Vivian swallowed. Then she buzzed the intercom. A voice crackled. "Yeah?" Vivian's throat tightened. "It's Vivian Hale," she said. "I'm here to see Darius Carter." Silence. Then, "Hold on." The door clicked open. Vivian stepped inside. The hallway smelled like old carpet and someone's cooking, garlic and onions. She walked to Darius's door. She raised her hand and hesitated. Because knocking meant admitting she was wrong. Vivian Hale didn't do wrong, but she was learning. She knocked. A moment later, the door opened. Darius stood there in a plain t-shirt, no uniform. His eyes were tired, guarded. Behind him, Nia peeked out, eyes widening when she saw Harper. "Harper," Nia whispered. Harper's face lit up for half a second. Then she remembered her mother and stepped closer to Vivian again, hugging the teddy bear. Darius's voice was calm but cool. "Ms. Hale." Vivian swallowed. "Darius," she said. Hearing his name out loud made something in her chest tighten. She hadn't used it in the hallway. She'd refused to. Now she forced herself to look him in the eye. "I'm here," Vivian said, voice steady but strained, "to apologize." Darius didn't move. Nia's gaze flicked between them like a tennis match. Vivian took a breath. "I was wrong," she said. "I accused you. Her voice caught, and she hated that it did. "I treated you like a threat when you were the reason my daughter was alive and warm last night." Darius's jaw tightened slightly. He didn't speak. Vivian continued, because she had to. "I was scared," she said. "But fear isn't an excuse. It's just, an explanation for what kind of person I was in that moment. Harper shifted, hugging the teddy bear tighter. Nia stepped forward shyly. "Hi, Miss Hale," she whispered. Vivian looked down at Nia, and something in her face softened. "Hi, Nia," Vivian said quietly. Nia held her hands behind her back. "Did Harper sleep okay?" she asked. Harper's eyes widened. Vivian glanced at Harper, then back to Nia. "She did," Vivian said, "because of your teddy bear." Nia smiled a small, proud smile. Darius's eyes flickered to Nia, then back to Vivian. Vivian felt the sting of that, Darius's attention always returning to his child, as if she was the axis his world spun around. Vivian realized how different that was from her own life, where Harper had often felt like she was orbiting around Vivian's work instead. Vivian's voice dropped. "May I come in?" she asked. Darius hesitated. The air held its breath. Then he stepped aside. Vivian entered. The apartment looked the same as last night, small, warm, full of little signs of love. A child's drawing of a house with a heart in the window, a stack of library books, a coffee mug with faded letters. World's okayest dad. Vivian's throat tightened. Harper walked toward the couch automatically, like her body remembered safety. Nia followed her, and the two girls sat close, shoulders touching. Vivian stayed near the door, unsure where to put her hands. Darius gestured to the chair. "Sit," he said. Vivian sat slowly. Darius didn't. He stood across from her, arms folded, not aggressive but protective, like he needed his body to be a wall between Vivian's power and his family. Vivian swallowed. "I also came to fix what I broke," she said. "The news, the rumors." Darius's eyes sharpened. "People are talking," he said flatly. Vivian winced. "Yes," she admitted. "Because of me." Darius's voice stayed calm, but there was steel under it. "My supervisor asked me to take time off," he said. "Tenants got concerned. My daughter asked if I got fired." Vivian's breath caught, because suddenly this wasn't abstract. This wasn't a PR story. This was a father's life being shaken because a powerful woman had let her fears speak louder than truth. "I'm sorry," Vivian whispered. Darius stared at her. Vivian forced herself to keep eye contact. "I'm going to make a statement," she said, "a clear one. I'm going to say you saved my daughter. I'm going to say you did everything right. I'm going to say I was wrong." Darius's expression didn't change. Vivian's voice cracked slightly. "I can't undo what people already think," she said, "but I can stop it from getting worse, and I can at least be honest." Darius's eyes flicked to Harper, to Nia. His voice softened slightly. "Why?" he asked. Vivian blinked. "Why what?" "Why now?" Darius said. "Last night you didn't want to hear it. What changed?" Vivian's throat tightened. She looked toward Harper. Harper was whispering to Nia, showing her the teddy bear. Nia smiled and touched the bear's ear gently, like greeting an old friend. Vivian's voice went quieter. "Harper told me the truth," she said. "All of it. She told me you gave her your jacket. She told me you called the police. She told me you didn't even sleep, you just stayed." Darius's jaw tightened, something in his face shifting, pain and exhaustion mixed. Vivian leaned forward slightly, hands clasped. "And she told me something else," Vivian said. "She told me she thought I forgot her." Darius's eyes didn't soften, but something deep in them moved, recognition. Vivian swallowed hard. "I didn't forget her on purpose," she said, "but that might not matter, because the impact is the same." Darius was quiet. Vivian felt tears press at her eyes and hated it. She didn't cry in meetings. She didn't cry in interviews. She didn't cry when the company's first product failed. But she was here, in a small apartment, facing the truth of her own absence. "I don't know how to do this," Vivian whispered. "I don't know how to be present." Darius's voice was low. "Then learn," he said simply. Vivian flinched at the bluntness. Darius unfolded his arms. He looked tired, not cruel, just worn. "My daughter's mother died," he said quietly. Vivian's breath caught. Darius's eyes stayed on hers. "So I don't get the luxury of being distracted," he continued. "I don't get to say later, because later isn't promised." Vivian's chest tightened. Darius's voice stayed steady. "You have your daughter," he said. "She's here, alive, looking at you like you're the sun. Don't make her learn to live without you while you're still breathing." The words landed heavy and real. Vivian's lips trembled. "I'm trying," she whispered. Darius nodded once. "Good," he said. "Start with apologies that don't end at the door." Vivian swallowed. Then, because she didn't know what else to do, she did the only honest thing left. She bowed her head slightly. "I'm sorry," Vivian said again. "Darius, Nia, I'm sorry." Nia looked up, startled to be included. Harper glanced between them, eyes wide. Darius held Vivian's gaze. Then, slowly, he exhaled. "I accept your apology," he said, "but I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen." Vivian nodded quickly. "You shouldn't," she said. Darius's shoulders dropped slightly, like a fraction of tension released. Vivian took a shaky breath. "Would it be okay," she asked softly, "if Harper and Nia stayed friends?" Darius glanced at the girls. Nia was smiling now, showing Harper a drawing. Harper leaned close, laughing quietly. Darius's expression softened. "Yeah," he said. "That'd be okay." Vivian's chest loosened, a small relief. Then Darius added quietly, "And Miss Hale?" Vivian looked up. "Yes?" Darius's voice was steady. "Next time you're scared," he said, "ask your daughter first." Vivian blinked, pain in her eyes. Then she nodded. "I will," she whispered. Outside the window, the rain kept falling, softer now, and for the first time in a long time, Vivian Hale felt like she was about to start learning something she couldn't outsource: how to be a mother. Vivian's statement went out that afternoon, not through Marlene, not through a polished press release written to protect a brand. Vivian wrote it herself. It was short, clear, human. She posted a photo, Harper holding the teddy bear, standing next to Nia, both smiling shyly. Darius stood behind them, hands at his sides, expression calm. The image didn't look staged. It looked real. Vivian's words were simple. "Darius Carter found my daughter alone in the rain. He kept her safe. I was wrong to assume anything else. I am deeply grateful. My fear made me say things I regret. I'm correcting the record. He did the right thing. I didn't. I'm apologizing publicly and privately. The internet, hungry as always, swung hard. Some people apologized. Some didn't. Some doubled down, angry that the story wasn't as dramatic as they'd hoped. But the most important thing happened quietly. Darius's supervisor called him and said, awkwardly, "You can come back, if you want." Darius said yes, not because he needed the job, though he did, but because he wanted Nia to see something, that you didn't have to disappear to survive. The first time Vivian came over again, she didn't wear heels. She brought grocery bags. Nia opened the door and stared at the bags like they were suspicious. Vivian smiled faintly. "I don't know what I'm doing," she admitted. Nia blinked. "Is that bread?" Vivian looked into the bag, then back up. "Yes," she said. "I read somewhere children eat bread." Nia burst out laughing. Darius, behind her, covered his mouth but couldn't hide his smile. Vivian's cheeks flushed. "Okay," she said. "That sounded worse out loud." Darius stepped aside. "Come in," he said. Vivian entered, carrying her awkwardness like a new, fragile thing. Harper followed, hugging the teddy bear, now officially hers. Vivian had tried to return it, but Harper had refused, saying, "It's my brave bear." Nia grabbed Harper's hand and pulled her toward the living room. Darius watched them disappear, then looked back at Vivian. Vivian stood in the kitchen, staring at the small space like she was trying to understand how love fit inside a room this size. "I'm not here to intrude," Vivian said quietly. "Harper she talks about Nia constantly." Darius nodded. "Nia likes her," he said. Vivian swallowed. "And I want to learn," she said. "How you do it, the routines, the being there." Darius's eyes narrowed slightly, not suspicious, but cautious. "You think I got a manual?" he asked. Vivian's lips trembled into a small smile. "No," she said, "but you've been doing it, alone, and my daughter looked at your daughter's home like it was peace." Darius looked away, throat tightening. Vivian continued, voice soft. "I don't want Harper to feel like she has to be brave all the time," Vivian said. "I want her to feel safe." Darius was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Start with dinner." Vivian blinked. "Dinner?" Darius nodded toward the groceries. "Make it," he said simply. "Sit down. No phone, no emails, no 5 minutes, just dinner." Vivian stared at him like he'd suggested something revolutionary. Then she nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "Dinner." That night, Vivian tried to cook spaghetti. It went badly at first. She boiled the noodles too long. She almost set the sauce on fire because she turned away to check a notification, then stopped, staring at the phone like it was a trap, and turned it face down on the counter. Darius watched quietly, arms folded, not mocking, not rescuing. When Vivian finally served the spaghetti, it was slightly mushy and oversalted. Nia took a bite, chewed thoughtfully, then said, "It tastes like you tried really hard." Vivian stared at her, then laughed, an actual laugh, surprised, a little broken. Harper ate like she'd been starving, not for food, for the moment. They sat at the table, 4 people, 2 children swinging their legs, 2 adults learning how to share air without tension. Vivian kept glancing toward her phone, as if expecting it to punish her for ignoring it. It stayed silent. The world didn't collapse, and in that small, ordinary miracle, Vivian felt tears burn behind her eyes. After dinner, Harper and Nia built a rain fort out of blankets and pillows. They pulled the teddy bear inside like it was a VIP guest. Nia whispered something, and Harper giggled. Darius sat on the couch, watching them, heart strangely full. Vivian sat beside him, hands clasped, posture stiff like she didn't know how to relax in someone else's warmth. For a long moment, they just listened to the girls' laughter. Then Vivian spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't grow up like this," she said. Darius glanced at her. "Like what?" Vivian looked around, at the crooked drawings, the worn couch, the lived-in air. "Like safe," she said quietly. Darius's expression softened slightly. Vivian swallowed. "My parents were always working," she admitted. "They were building something. They said they were doing it for me. But I remember eating alone. I remember falling asleep with the TV on because silence felt like abandonment." Darius's chest tightened. He didn't speak. Vivian's voice shook. "I told myself I'd be different," she whispered. "I told myself I'd build something so Harper would never worry." Darius's voice was low. "And did it work?" Vivian flinched. "No," she admitted, "because she's still worried. She worried I'd disappear, and then I proved she was right." Her eyes filled. Vivian turned her face away quickly, like she didn't want him to see. But Darius had seen grief up close. He knew the shape of it. He didn't reach for her. He didn't do something dramatic. He just said quietly, "It's not too late." Vivian looked at him. Darius's eyes were steady. "You can change," he said. "Not with one big gesture, with 100 small ones." Vivian swallowed hard. "I don't know how," she whispered. Darius nodded toward the fort. "Ask them," he said. Vivian blinked. Darius's mouth twitched slightly, almost a smile. "Kids will tell you exactly what they need," he said, "if you listen." Vivian stared at the blanket fort. Inside, Harper's voice floated out.
Nia, if the rain monsters come, we throw pillows at them. Nia's voice. And Bear bites them. Harper giggled. Vivian's throat tightened until it hurt. She leaned forward and called softly, Harper? The fort went still. Then Harper's head poked out, hair messy, eyes bright. Yeah? Vivian's voice shook. What do you need from me? She asked. Harper blinked, surprised by the question. She stared at her mom for a moment like she was checking if this was a trick. Then Harper said simply, I need you to look at me when I talk. Vivian's breath caught. Harper continued, voice small but clear. And I need you to not be mad when I'm sad. Vivian's eyes filled. And, Harper added, hugging the teddy bear, I need you to come back when you say you will. Silence. Vivian nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks now because she couldn't hold them anymore. I can do that, Vivian whispered. I can do that. Harper stared.
Then she crawled out of the fort and walked slowly toward Vivian, teddy bear tucked under her arm. She climbed into Vivian's lap like she'd forgotten she was allowed to. Vivian wrapped her arms around her daughter and held her like she was the most important deal she'd ever closed. Darius looked away, throat tight. Nia crawled out next and came to Darius, leaning against his side. Darius kissed the top of her head. In that moment, it didn't feel like a scandal or a news story or a misunderstanding. It felt like 4 people in a small room deciding to heal. Weeks passed. The girls stayed friends, playdates, library visits, rainy day forts. Vivian started doing something that felt impossible at first. She set boundaries. She turned her phone off during dinner. She stopped taking calls in Harper's presence unless it was an emergency. She began picking Harper up from school herself, standing awkwardly with other parents, learning to wait in lines, learning to be ordinary. The first day she showed up early, Harper ran to her like she couldn't believe it. Vivian knelt and hugged her, and for the first time, Harper didn't look surprised by love. Darius watched from a distance sometimes, waiting in his car as Nia played on the schoolyard. He saw Vivian trying, stumbling, adjusting. He didn't trust easily. Not after years of being disappointed by systems and promises. But he noticed the small things. Vivian learned Nia's favorite snack. Vivian remembered Darius took his coffee black. Vivian asked Darius's schedule before planning anything, instead of assuming his time belonged to whoever demanded it. One evening, after a particularly hard day at work, Darius sat in his car outside the apartment and stared at the rain. He didn't want to go inside. Not because he didn't love Nia, because he was tired of being strong. His phone buzzed. A text from Vivian. I made soup. The kind that tastes like someone cared. If you and Nia want, there's enough for you too. Darius stared at the message for a long time. Soup. Such a simple thing, but it felt like an offering. Not from power, not from guilt, just from a person learning how to show up. He exhaled. Then he typed back. We'll be there in 10. That night, Vivian's kitchen was warm. Harper and Mia sat at the table drawing, this time a picture of 4 stick figures under one giant umbrella. Vivian served soup that actually tasted good. Darius ate slowly, surprised at how much the warmth sank into him. After the girls ran off to play, Vivian stood at the sink washing dishes. Darius stepped beside her, drying plates quietly. It wasn't romantic, not in a dramatic movie way. It was intimate in a different way, the way life became shared when people stopped guarding every inch of themselves. Vivian glanced at him. I'm still sorry, she said quietly. Darius nodded. I know, he said. Vivian swallowed. And I'm still learning, she added. Darius's voice was low. Good, he said. Vivian hesitated, then asked softly, Do you ever get tired? Darius's hands paused on the towel. He looked at Vivian. Her eyes weren't sharp now, they were honest. Darius exhaled. Yeah, he admitted. All the time. Vivian's throat tightened. Who takes care of you? She asked. Darius didn't have an answer, not a good one.
He opened his mouth, then closed it. Vivian nodded slowly, like she understood the emptiness behind his silence. She didn't reach for him. She didn't say something dramatic. She just said gently, "If you ever want, you don't have to do it alone." Darius felt something shift in his chest, small, cautious, dangerous. Hope. He looked toward the living room, where Nia's laughter rose like music. He thought of all the times he'd promised himself he didn't need anyone, that he could carry everything by himself. He thought of how heavy that promise had been. Darius turned back to Vivian. His voice was quiet.
"One step at a time," he said. Vivian's lips trembled into a small smile. "One step," she agreed. Outside, the rain kept falling, as it always did. But inside, there was warmth. Not because the storm ended, because people learned to hold each other through it. And when Harper hugged the teddy bear at night, she didn't hug it like a lifeline anymore. She hugged it like a memory of the night she was lost and the night she was found. Not by wealth, not by power, by kindness, by a father who refused to let a child freeze in the dark, by a little girl who gave away her comfort without hesitation, and by a mother who finally learned that coming back mattered more than staying busy. If this story touched a quiet corner of you, the part that's been tired of being strong, leave a comment with one sentence you'd want to tell Darius, Vivian, Nia, or Harper. Sometimes the smallest words are the ones that feel like a warm blanket in the rain.